Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk. I am your host, Asia the Bird. We have a very special guest with us today. He is a nail artist. Please welcome Nathan Taylor. Hello,
Hi,
Nathan, and welcome.
thanks so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. You're most welcome. I want to go ahead and get started by asking where you're originally from and tell us a little about your upbringing.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in London and Essex. I moved around a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I kind of realized I was queer when, I don't know, I was probably like 9 or 10,
Hmm.
so quite young. And so my experience of the world after that point was fairly rocky. I was like bullied a lot in school, um, but then I uh, eventually I moved away from where I was living at the time. I went to go and live with
Hmm.
my dad, um, and I found like a real crew of people. And it was like all of the weirdos and the misfits, and that those people that I really like, yeah, I warmed to, and they just kind of like took me in. So
Hmm.
before that point, I didn't really have like a group of friends, and it was just like an amazing experience to finally have that, to be around people like me that kind of understood, what I was about. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so then after that, I went to college. I studied photography for a bit, but I kind of couldn't stand it. um, so yeah, I was an aspiring photographer for like 5 minutes, um, and then I ended up studying fashion and clothing design, which I managed to get all the way through, and I loved that. There was like a real opportunity to be like creative and technical,
Right.
um, and I really enjoyed combining those two. And I think it was at that point I really realized how much I got into like the research side of stuff. Like I really
Hmm.
love looking at books and getting references, and
Hmm.
um, so after that uh, I moved back to London for a bit. I was working in Soho at one of the sex shops there, which was
Hmm.
great. I loved it there. Was there for a few years, um, and that was like, yeah, an interesting bit of time in my
Hmm.
life. Through lots of different, phases, and then I was like, oh, I hate working 9 to 5. I'm gonna go to uni. And before that, I was like so adamant that I wasn't gonna go to uni. I was like, it's not for
Hmm.
me. I don't really feel like I fit in. Like, no one from my family had been to university before, so I didn't have any like way of kind of like understanding what that experience would be
Hmm.
like for me. Um, so yeah, I ended up going in the end. I went to Buff
Hmm.
Bar, which is like, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like a little it's like a cute little town, I guess, but it is technically a city, but it's so small it could be a
Hmm.
town. Um and I'm so glad that I did that because I ended up really being able to explore lots of different sides of my
Hmm.
creativity. So the course that I was on was like amazing because you could do
Hmm.
painting and sculpture and
Right.
ceramics, and like it was a whole mix of things. So I was able to just like try everything
Hmm.
out, um, and I ended up really falling in love with sculpture and
Hmm.
ceramics, and a lot of my work was like very
Hmm.
performative. So there was like a performance like, yeah, kind of streak to everything that I was
Right.
doing. um so yeah, I absolutely loved it. Like there were times where I was like, I can't do this, and it was kind of, most of the people there were very privileged, quite
Hmm.
wealthy, um and I was just like, I don't fit in. I'm like working class, common as muck,
Hmm.
like, this is not for me. But I'm glad that I stuck it out because, yeah, in the end, it was like, a great experience and something that I always pine after now is just like being in this space with other creative people where you have like every kind of creative workshop
Hmm.
and outlet at your fingertips. Oh, I would love to do it again. Um, so yeah, after I did that, I started working with preschool children for a little bit. I was doing like artist workshops with them for a couple
Hmm.
of years, and then I finally moved to Bristol. And so when I first got here, I had nothing, like I had no money, nowhere to live, like I was just
Hmm.
winging it. Um, and eventually I realized that I could do a course for free because I was signing on, I was on
Hmm.
benefits. So I was like, oh, I kind of think that I would enjoy doing
Hmm.
nails. Like, I I was like, it's kind of creative. I get to be around people. Like, I want to check
Right.
it out. So I started the course, and yeah, I just fell in love with it straight
Hmm.
away. Um, I think it was that thing about it being creative, but also there's so much information
Hmm.
out there. There's always something new to learn, and I really was like digging my teeth into the like research of side of things.
Hmm.
So it was a good choice for me, I think. Um, and from there, I've worked at a few places, realized that I didn't want to work for anyone else, and then whilst I was at um, college studying, so it was like a year long course, I set everything up for Buff Bar. So by the time that I left, it was like, okay, this is what I'm going to go and do. But I wanted to get some experience in the industry first. And then yeah, not long after I was doing it for myself. I was freelancing and opened my own place. Um, and there's been many things that have happened since then. That was maybe like 6, 7 years ago,
Hmm.
maybe. So yeah, lots and lots
Hmm.
happened since then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a long-winded one. I didn't.
Yeah, yeah,
Woo!
it's all good. I want to really get into your business, Buff Bar Bristol. So what has been the journey behind your business, and also did you face any obstacles while building the business?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like again, like when I started Buff Bar Bristol, it was like I had
Hmm.
nothing. I really was starting from the
Right.
bottom, and I mean, I was in a very like privileged position where I had a space. I was living at my partner at the time, ex-partner now. I was living in their house, and I was able to take the front room and turn it into a studio.
Hmm.
So that was amazing because like I didn't have to worry about renting a space. I didn't have to worry about like dealing with a
Right.
landlord and commercial letting and
Hmm.
all of that stuff, which I think really helped me to get things off the ground, and there was like a lot less pressure
Right.
there. um, However, like after a like fairly short amount of time, really, I think it was less than a year, we split up, and I had to move out. And so not only was I like losing my home and my relationship at the time, but also the space to
Hmm.
work. So yeah, it was a really difficult moment in my
Hmm.
life where I was like, shit, I really have to build everything back up again. And I was really fortunate to have some friends who were just about to open up like a collective space. They're all tattoo artists, and there was a hairdresser there, and they were like, "We've got a space. You can move in whenever you want. We'll support you. We want to get you like going again." So I did, and it was amazing. I was so lucky to have those guys in my corner and help me, get things started again. Um, so yeah, there's been a lot of like moving around. I now work from home again. I'm not at that studio
Hmm.
anymore. Um, and also last year I was diagnosed with ME. So that really takes a big toll on like how much I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, it's really changed the way that I approach the business side of my work,
Mm-hmm.
and and how I engage with that kind of stuff. So at the moment, I don't have clients, like my books are closed, but I do still do friends and family when I feel like it's appropriate and I
Mm-hmm.
have the right energy, and it works for me. So there's been like many
Mm-hmm.
things that have been
Mm-hmm.
challenging. I think another thing that I found really difficult during lockdown was that um, I really found I saw like a very different side to the now industry in the
Mm-hmm.
UK, and so I was starting to get to this point where I was like brushing shoulders with big brands and starting to work for and with big brands, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. My moment's finally come. They've realized my potential.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, no, hang on a minute. This might not be that. Actually, what this is people kind of taking advantage of me. And so I really had to have like a strong backbone in that period of time, and it was really hard. It hit me. I think it hit my confidence quite badly. Um, and again, I just had to kind of like pick myself up and carry on and move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been a mixture of like both amazing, beautiful, like incredible experiences, and then some really difficult ones as well, as I'm sure you're aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Like it
Yeah, yeah,
happened.
right. Absolutely, most definitely. Now, if you don't mind me asking, what is ME for people that don't know?
Okay, so I can never say what ME stands for because it's a really complex
Okay.
word. But another way of describing it is CFS. So it's chronic fatigue
Mm,
syndrome. So the way that that comes up for me is that it's like more than just being tired, right? We all know how it is to be
mm-hmm.
tired. But for me, it gets to a point where like my legs don't work,
Mm,
or I'm in so much pain that I can't breathe. Like
wow.
it's it really has like completely changed my life. So um, I think before when I'd like heard of chronic fatigue syndrome, I was like, that doesn't really sound like a real thing. And I think that is often the mindset of like lots of people, even like medical professionals out there. It's not really taken
Mm-hmm.
seriously. And so it's been a real shock to like realize how much that can affect, me and many, many, many other people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so I'm kind of like at the moment I'm navigating what I can do,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that I'll always want to create. I'll always want to be involved in the nail industry in some ways. And so yeah, I'm just figuring out how I can still do that and also like look after myself and my health,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you take any like medication for it, or is it just, you know, do you take any like natural things
I
for it?
wish there was I wish there was like medication that could help, but unfortunately there's not. So I take lots of supplements, and I'm really into like herbs, and
Mm-hmm.
I take lots of that stuff, and um, it's really a journey of just like testing
Right.
stuff out and seeing what works and what sticks. But yeah, unfortunately, there's no like cure.
Mm,
There's no way of there's no medication that will like automatically make you feel better, which is
mm,
yeah, kind of sour about it because I'm like, it would be great if there was,
yeah, yeah, right, exactly. Now I want to go ahead and push forward and talk about your nail art style. So, how can you describe your nail art style?
I think the only way that I can describe it is ever changing. I kind of like, for me, the way that I work across the board, like in any forms of creativity, it's always about an idea. It's never about the material, although sometimes the material can be the
Right.
idea.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you
yeah.
get me? Um, and so, yeah, for me, it's always about expressing an idea or a
Hmm.
feeling, and I feel like the way that I'm kind of heading at the moment, the things that I'm doing at the moment are more about how nail art can how it interacts with the body, and how it can become like this performative
Right.
thing. So how, like when you have your nails done and they're like this long,
Hmm.
and you've got like loads of
Hmm.
charms and gems, and it's really 3D, and it makes you interact with the world in a very
Right.
different way compared to like if you have natural nails that are quite
Right.
short. And um so that's really what I'm interested in, is like how nails make people feel, and what it does to them, and how they interact with the world. So I say that my style, like, it's really hard to put a pinpoint on it, because it's more about that, and that comes in like many different
Mhm.
forms. I'd say the things that I'm like inspired by is like anything weird and like creepy and kind of alien-esque and grotesque. Like I I love horror. I am really into like gore. Um and so I think in some ways that kind of comes out, it's like, how can I create something that looks like a scene in a horror film, but then like create in a way where it has this real beautiful finish to it, and it looks like very inviting and charming,
Hmm.
um, yeah. So yeah, it's a complex thing to like kind of uh totally explain,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think that's it in a
Hmm.
nutshell,
Yeah, and the thing
really.
is, I looked at some of your work and I like your art style because I can see like it's very like experimental, and you play with different
Mhm.
mediums. I like how you push certain things as far as with your nail art. I think there was like this one set I really liked. It was with the mask or something like that.
Oh
I like
yeah,
that set. Yeah, your style is very very cool and it's very very experimental.
thanks. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes from my background in visual
Hmm.
arts. I think that I'm yeah, it's like I'm like really playful with
Hmm.
stuff. I really want to push like materials to their limits and see where it can go, and like what I can do with
Hmm.
something. Um, that's what's fun for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Again, going back to like research, it's like figuring out what can be
Hmm.
done. Um, yeah, that's what I love
Mm.
to do.
Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. I'm the same way because I went to art school. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, in
Wicked.
America. And I, studied illustration. I minored in fibers, which is like, playing with yarn, natural dyeing, textile design. So yeah, so I'm also that way too of
Mm,
my nail art, is that like I'm very experimental. I like playing with different mediums and stuff and see where I can take with them. So, it's really cool to see that, with the nail industry there's so many mediums you can play with. There's so many styles of nail art that's out there that can inspire you. So, this is a really cool industry.
yeah, totally. And I think that it's important that we have conversations like this, because sometimes the industry, I don't know what it's like in the US, but especially in the UK, it can kind of become a bit of a like echo chamber, and the same kind of things are being created time and time
Right.
again. And I think it's important for us to have these conversations and talk about the notion that you can make it whatever you want it to
Yeah.
be. It doesn't have to be something that's like super
Mhm.
popular.
Right.
Like, you can be creative with it and bring yourself into the work that you're doing, your personality, your interests. Um, yeah, I feel very passionately about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I know that in the industry. I'm like, it's okay. You can do what you want,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, most definitely. Now, as far as I want to get into NTNA, so you competed in Nails Magazine's Next Top Nail Artist. What was that journey in competing in that competition, and what did you learn from being in that competition?
I learned a lot. It was very hard. It was like maybe one of the hardest periods of
Mhm,
my life. um, yeah, I think at that point I was experiencing ME symptoms, but I wasn't diagnosed
mhm,
yet. So uh, I was kind of like, what's going on? My body is really changing. I can't keep up.
mhm,
Like, so that was really difficult. And you know, I was having clients during the day, and then in the evenings and the nighttime, and then on my days off, I was working on competition stuff. So I was basically in my studio, which at the time had no natural daylight, but all the time,
mhm,
like I hardly ever left. It was really, really
mhm,
intense. Um, so that side of things was like, yeah, it was a real learning curve for me about how to properly balance my work and the rest of my
right.
life. Um, and then I also really I learned how to push myself a little bit more in terms of like um yeah, in terms of like how I can be creative with nails
Mhm,
specifically. I think it was that moment where I was like, "Oh, cool, I can combine all of these things and put this and that together." And like I think whereas before I was like so focused on like what was relevant
mhm,
and like okay for a
mhm,
client, really helped me get out of that headspace and be like, okay, I can do many other
mhm,
things with this. Um, so yeah, it was a real opportunity to discover that side of myself, you
mhm,
know. Um, and also I think it taught me a lot about how I deal with things going well and things going not so
mhm,
well. So I kind of I learned how to get feedback and and to like not be like you know put down by it.
mhm,
You know, I realized that it was like it was feedback and it was really important for me to
mhm.
progress instead of it being something that hindered me, and I didn't take it like
Right.
personally. It really taught me how to like celebrate the wins
Mhm,
and how to like deal with the like the setbacks. You know, it was like
mhm.
when you didn't get very good feedback or you didn't win that particular round or you know
Right.
um, it taught me how to like deal with that, you know, how to like comfort myself and how to build up my confidence to like you know you basically there's no stopping, you go into the next round straight away. So if you
Right.
let something like break your confidence, it's going to show in the next week of the competition, you know. So
Right.
you've got to really quickly pick yourself back up and keep on going. So
Mhm.
yeah, it really it
Absolutely.
helped me with that.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was an amazing opportunity because I've had to do that many times since. So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. For me, I did like season 8 of NTNA, and
right.
it's like how you said, it's hard.
Hmm.
It is a lot of work. It
Yeah.
can be stressful and things like that. I think the only thing with the NTNA competition, even though I liked it and it was rewarding because it does push you into doing different things or taking your nail art to higher heights, I think the judging could be a bit better.
Mm.
I would say, as far as the competition, I don't know if they've done this year or not. Probably not, but but in my season, it was hard. It was a lot of work.
Mm. Yeah, it really is. I don't think people realize as well. Like, I unless you're kind of in it or you are kind of around people that are part of it, part of like competition, nail out competitions. Like, I don't think people really understand what that means to do a nail art competition or any kind of competition, I
Right.
suppose. But,
Mhm.
yeah, it is a lot of work. It's very very intense, and I agree. I think there was definitely some feedback that I had about how how our work was being yeah, like what feedback we were getting and how it was being marked and judged, you know.
Mhm.
I I would imagine it's like a hard thing to do. Um
Mhm.
but yeah, like uh I think that yeah, it definitely like taught me how to, it also really taught me how to frame my work, how to like kind of bring an idea to someone and help them understand where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was a good experience. I don't know if I'd do competitions again. I think I'm like, okay, I've done that. Yeah, I'm all right. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I'd much rather be a judge.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. I wanna get into as far as for someone who wants to get into a nail competition,
Mm.
what would be some words of advice for someone who wants to compete?
Um, Clear your schedule as much as you possibly can. Make sure that you've
Mhm.
got some time out that you book in and you keep very, very, very close to your heart. Make sure you take that time out.
Mhm.
And what else would I say? I would say that, yeah, I would say that it doesn't matter where you get in that competition. The important thing is that you're taking part. And
Mhm.
that is the best thing that you can take from that competition. So like for me, I'm like, there's unless there's a really good amount of money that they're giving away for a prize, I'm like, there's not enough money really in competitions um
Mhm.
that that could like um counterbalance that experience. I think that the experience is worth so much more. um
Mhm.
so yeah, just taking part, I think, is like the most important thing, and that's where you got to kind of keep your head out. Is like, well, it doesn't matter if I win or not. Winning's great, but it's not the like be all and end all. You know, it's the experience that is really gonna like shape you as a creative person, as an artist.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely, most definitely. Now, what are some of like your favorite nail products to use for like nail art?
Oh, that's a hard one. I've got many, mostly because I love to try everything. And yeah, again, it goes back to that thing about like, doing the research. I'm like, oh, this looks fun. I want to try it out. What's it all about, you know? Um,
Mhm.
at the moment, I love Cocoist's boba gel. I use that for a
Mhm.
lot of my 3D artwork. Um, and I feel like it's quite a flexible um, product. It's like you can do so much with it, and
Mhm.
so yeah, it's like I kind of like keep it very perfect. Every like a lot of my other stuff is like, oh, it's got dust all over it, and like there's like bits of like sparkles and glitter everywhere. But this, I'm like, it has to be kept pristine. I don't want to get it like nothing
Mhm.
inside of it. I just want to keep it perfect. And I think that's because I like use it so much and I love it so much. um
Mhm.
uh yeah, I'm not sure what else I like I would say that I absolutely love. I think that I'm not really like totally set on like one particular brand. I like trying things
Right.
from
Mhm.
everywhere. Um, and brands kind of hate that. They're like, no, we want you to be loyal to us and only use our stuff. And I'm like, that's not realistic. You don't create half the stuff that these other people create. You're great at
Exactly.
creating the thing that you do, but this stuff I also want to play with. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it just comes down to like what I'm trying to make. And
Mhm.
honestly, like a lot of the stuff that I have used for like my really like weird and out there nail art um
Mhm.
stuff is like stuff that you usually don't use for nails. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
hot glue and like bits of wood and plastic, and it's just like
Right.
it's stuff that usually is not, you're not getting that stuff from like nail brands. So um yeah, I think that I like putting things like that together, just like chucking it all in and seeing what it comes out. So yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say that the Cocois boba gel is like,
Mhm.
it's the one that comes to my head every time. I'm like, oh, I love that stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't have a particular nail brand I use either. I use a whole ton of different stuff.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? My favorite is 3D gel. I love the 3D
Yeah.
gel. I would rather use that than try to sculpt something with acrylic. Acrylic is hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can just put stuff together, like make stuff with like, 3D gel. I love using like embellishments and bling and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So yeah, there's so many mediums that you could use. It's endless.
Totally. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to push forward and talk about the nail industry. So, what are some things you like about the nail industry, and what are some things you think the nail industry could be improved on?
Mm. Yeah, I think one of the things that I like about the nail industry is that you it's like it's quite easy to find your groove and to find
Hmm.
your own like way of working. Um
Hmm.
and yeah, I think that I found that pretty quickly,
Hmm.
also I think the other thing was like that I was so shocked at having come from like, I'm sure that you know how this is as well, like coming from an arts background where it's very difficult to earn money. Going into
Hmm.
nails, I was like, cool, I get to be creative and I get to earn money. This is amazing. Like I never
Hmm.
thought that I would be in that position, Like I always was like, okay, this is like, it's gonna be the poor artist life for me forever, because I need to be creative. It's like it's in my blood. I have to do it. Otherwise I kind of like a part of me kind of dies. And so
Hmm.
I was always like, well, I'm just gonna have to be poor because it's really hard to make money out of like being an artist. Um,
Hmm.
so I think that was like an amazing turning point for me. I was like, cool, people actually want to pay me for my art, for the things that I love to do. And
Hmm.
how great is that? Like it's a
Right.
great thing, and it's like amazing.
Hmm.
I think the things that I I find difficult about in the industry, and I think the industry can improve on. Um, I seem to think I seem to feel like there is this like overwhelming feeling of competition in the industry, and it really gets me down because I'm like, it sometimes can feel like everyone is working against each other, and I
Hmm.
and I'm like, it doesn't really need to be like that.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I find that a bit difficult, and I think I don't know what it's like in the US. I think that it's probably not like this, but in the UK, um, our industry is very white. It's very cis. It's very straight. Um, it's mostly women, and and I find that difficult to deal with sometimes because I'm like, I don't want to be the only queer or brown person in the room, Like
Hmm.
I want there to be someone, at least someone else that kind of like
Hmm.
understands where I'm coming
Right.
from. Um,
Hmm.
and so yeah, I feel like inclusion and diversity is a real big issue in the industry in the UK at the moment. Um,
Hmm.
and it's something that I harp on about all the time. And I'm like, please, can we do something about this? Like, let's get this
Hmm.
moving because we're really behind. If we look at the other
Hmm.
creative industries, it's like they're doing some of the work at least, Like where
Hmm.
I feel like the nail industry in the UK is not really like take it. They're not. It's not taking it very seriously, and
Hmm.
that's difficult, especially when I see so many like incredibly talented people that are not being celebrated, and they're not being given the limelight, and they're not being given their flowers. Like I'm like, they should be. they should be giving they should have the opportunities that everyone else does.
Right. Agreed.
And it's yeah, it can be disappointing and frustrating sometimes. So I think that
Mhm.
yeah, definitely in the UK we've got lots of work to do with that. I think that
Mhm.
we really need to um, put our fingers out a little bit and realize how important that is. You know.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you as far as just like I've asked people, nail artists from the UK. I said, "Is there enough representation? Especially Black representation?" They say no. There isn't as much representation, in the nail industry in the UK. Like with here in the US, like there's representation to an extent. There's Black women in the nail industry. Asian, Latino, But the thing is with the nail industry that I have an issue with is not only with the hype and sensationalism and bias. There's
Mm.
bias in the industry, but also too there's racism.
Oh yeah.
And the thing is, there has been, certain, people or brands that have practiced anti-black racism towards black women. And so that's even with certain brands that, as of recently within the beauty industry, so it's just really ridiculous that, you know, this stuff is happening and and it's not surprising at all, but definitely those things have to be more talked about and more there has to be more improvement.
Totally. Yeah. Um, I think that the industry is like really I feel like they're kind of like scared to talk about this kind of stuff. A lot of people are really scared to talk about this kind of stuff,
Hmm.
including the people that like are affected by this stuff, um
Hmm.
by like by racism and being excluded from certain
Hmm.
environments and spaces. um and I can understand why, because it if you so often when you speak out about this kind of stuff, people can become like very defensive and like angry,
Hmm.
and and it creates like a real stir in the industry.
Hmm.
And that that's something that I've always been like prepared for. I talk about this stuff a lot, um and I'm
Hmm.
happy to be the person that like kind of messes things up a little bit, and like gets
Right.
people like clutching their pearls, because I'm like, well, there are not many other people doing it, and I am in a position where
Hmm.
I can and where I
Right.
want to, and
Yeah.
so I'm gonna do it. And but it is a really difficult thing. I've seen plenty of people, even over here in the UK. They will like they will be in my DMs talking loads about the things
Hmm.
that they find difficult about the industry, and then the next minute they're like an ambassador for the same brand that they were just talking about. And I get it, because like
Hmm.
we need to like build our careers and make money and do the things that we need
Hmm.
to do. But I think for me, it really comes down to like my self-worth. And I think
Right.
that's a real issue in the nail industry. I think that we are often like the crew that is like considered the bottom of the list, in terms of like
Hmm.
there's hair, there's makeup, that there's
Yeah. Yeah. Bottom of the food chain.
yeah, exactly. And so and I think that that trickles through to the throughout the whole industry,
Hmm.
and really, yeah, it really it means that a lot of now pros, now techs, now artists just don't have enough self worth. They don't have the confidence in themselves to stand up for themselves. And so, what's important for me is being that person who is like, you can still stand up for yourself and say what you need to say and speak up
Right.
about stuff, and still
Hmm.
have a career. You can still do the things that you need to do and earn money. Um,
Right. Hmm.
so yeah, I feel like at the moment the industry is like in this weird space where um there's a lot of like guessing how to work out how to deal with these issues, instead of actually listening to communities of people. And
Right.
and I'm like, we're not going to give you all of the answers for free because that's consultation and you need to pay us for that. But like, um, but also like, we are the people that you should be talking to and paying
Hmm.
to understand how you can make the industry a better place, and also it benefits the big brands. It's like you if you act a certain way, and if you only kind of if your only target audience is a specific kind of person, then you're losing out on a lot of money because like especially like the black community, we spend a lot of money on beauty. Like it's a big
Hmm.
thing for us. So it's like it's a bad it's a bad move on their part, as well as also this kind of this thing about it being the right thing to do. It's also
Hmm.
the better thing to do, for business.
Hmm.
So yeah, I find it really difficult. I feel like I'm often like kind of yeah kind of smashing my head up against a brick wall because I'm like, oh, this is so stupid. Like it's so
Hmm.
it's actually a really easy thing to figure out and to deal with, but
Hmm.
um yeah, that's just how it is, I suppose. Like people want to make it difficult, so
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Now, as far as with balance, like how have you been able to balance being a nail artist with life and mental health?
It's been a journey. Like it definitely is something that helps me. It keeps me like stable, like being able to just go into my studio and be like, oh, I want to make this thing, and get in my own little bubble, my own little world, and like just kind of forget about everything else.
Right.
That is amazing. I
Hmm.
love that. It's incredible that I have that to go to. For some people, it's going to
Right.
the gym. It's like going doing gardening or whatever. For me, it's being in the studio. And so I feel like it's
Hmm.
my little safe place. It's where I can just really think about what's going on in the world and
Right.
put it to rights in my own way. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, but I have felt like it's it's been challenging at times, especially when there's something that like I don't hear people talking about a lot, but I sometimes really struggle um to be this like professional person where I'm like, I want to be able to swear and like act in a way that I need to act in because that is true to me. You know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
I sometimes don't talk very well. Like I I have mannerisms that um that maybe is not kind of considered as like the best professional practice just in
Hmm.
terms of my personality,
Hmm.
and that I really struggle with to like kind of force that. I really can't do it, and that has made it difficult in the past to like have clients because I'm like,
Hmm.
I just don't have it in me today to be that person. I can't put on that hat today. I need to just like completely be myself. Um,
Hmm.
and you have your regular clients where you feel like you can be like that with them, and you've got a
Hmm.
rapport and a relationship with them, and it's totally fine.
Hmm.
But then if a complete stranger is walking through the door, you want to like be that professional kind of welcoming person, um,
Right.
so that they keep coming back, and that you can build that relationship with them. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I have struggled with that a lot, and also like really creating a space where people are able to like just relax and be themselves, and have a nice chilled time. Like I
Right.
want the
Hmm.
environment to be like a lovely space where people can just like take a minute out
Hmm.
of like their busy lives to just be like, oh, this is for me. um,
Right.
and it takes a lot to provide that for someone. You're holding them
Hmm.
like emotionally. um,
Right.
and yeah, so I feel like that has sometimes been difficult when my mental health has not been great. I've not
Hmm.
always been able to do that, and it does take a toll on like my capacity to work, you know. So yeah,
Hmm.
how about for you?
I think for me, as far as like with life and mental health, I do my best to kind of keep myself productive. I do
Hmm.
my best to kind of just not get too acclimated into, social media and stuff like that. It's easy for all of us to get acclimated to TikTok and Instagram and scroll, 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 scroll. So, that's something that I do my best not to do too much is to scroll and things like that and to kind of keep my head down. So
Hmm.
that's what I try to do. Like, find other avenues to be productive.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that, but you're right. Like that is a big thing for me as well. It's so easy to compare yourself to other people, and
Hmm.
especially on social media, it's like it's right there. You can't escape it. Especially
Hmm.
if you're in an industry like this, that's like a very visual thing. It's all over
Right.
social media. It's always there. You are not like without it, and so
Right. Right.
yeah, there definitely have been moments before where I've just been like, I need to take some time out because I just
Right.
can't be consuming this at the moment because it makes me
Yeah. Yeah.
feel crap about myself, and like
Mhm.
not what I need when I'm already feeling crap about myself. So yeah,
Mhm.
I totally agree. And like kind of coming like speaking about that, I want to also say that like how important it is for me to not feel like um that followers are like a sign of like how good you are at your work or at how creative you are or what your worth is. Like it's just a number, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I've never cared about it, like it's never been a thing for me. Um and I can't stand the notion that like we have to post on Instagram because that's just the way it is. I'm like, I'm going to post when I want to post. Actually, like, if I
Mhm.
don't feel
Yeah.
like posting for 2 months, I'm not going to do it because I've got nothing to put out. I've got nothing to say. I don't want it to
Right.
be false. I want it to be genuine. Uh,
Absolutely.
so yeah, I completely agree with that. I hadn't thought of that. So yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Now, if you could offer one valuable piece of advice for up and coming nail artists and nail techs, what would it be?
Know your self-worth, figure that stuff out, like figure
Mm.
out not just in terms of like how much are you worth, like for a job,
Right.
for what's your fees, although that's really, really important. Um, like what are your values? Where are your boundaries? Like
Hmm.
what's important to you in this
Absolutely.
industry? Um, I I used to have some mentees, um, and that was a really amazing experience where I saw how much their confidence grew over time when they were realizing like how their worth works, and it
Hmm.
was like
Right.
it truly inspiring and beautiful thing to see when someone like goes from this like really nervous, like doesn't know what to say, like now tech
Hmm.
who's like freaking out about every little thing to like, I
Right.
spoke to them the other day and they were like, oh yeah, I did this and this in a on a client, and I was like, yeah, how did that go? And they were like, yeah, it's fine. And I was like, you've come so long, so far from that point, like not too long ago, where that would have really freaked you out. Like that's an amazing
Right.
thing. You need to celebrate that. And so like
Hmm.
just constantly being able to remind yourself of how far you've come and how brilliant you are at what you do is really important, and yeah, and that should inspire how you go out into the world and treat yourself and understand your own self-worth. So I think that's, yeah, a big thing for me. It's like you don't want to let anyone like walk over you or take the piss. Like you need to like figure that stuff out real quick, because
Right.
there will be moments if you're good at what you're doing. There will be moments where you will be challenged on that, and it's so much easier if you've figured out like what's important to you and
Right.
what you need for your career, your life, your well-being, your health to like be good. um
Hmm.
it's going to be a loads easier to figure that stuff out before, instead of like actually in the moment when you're like being challenged with that. So yeah,
Right.
know your self-worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Last but not least, where can people find you on social media and how can people support you?
I'm at Buff Bar Bristol on Instagram, and I have a website as well, which is www.buff.bar.bristol.com, I think. Um, you can also find me over at Nang Worldwide. So that's NANG Worldwide, which stands for Not Another Nail Gang. Um, and that is like a community that I am building at the moment for like all the misfits and the weirdos and the freaks and the beautiful, like talented, creative people in the nail industry. So if you feel like the current dynamic and like landscape of the nail industry is like not hitting it for you, then come join us over there, because we're going to be doing some amazing things and celebrating each other and loving each other up. So
Mhm.
yeah. And if you want to support me, then definitely go check out Nang Worldwide. And you can go to our website and make donations to the community so that we can carry on doing what we're doing, which is essentially like doing stuff like this, help supporting people, hyping people up, showcasing people, um, making the industry a better place for all of those people out there that feel like they really need it. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Nathan, for jumping on. I love your work. Your work is really, really cool. I really enjoyed our conversation. I love sharing it. I love, hearing about your story. It was a cool conversation. So just thank you so much. Thank you.
So much, Asia.
Yes, thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms and be on the lookout for more interviews to come very soon.